All right, everyone. This is another round one game. This is between OTOM, Off Topic, Off Meds, and BAB, Beyond All Baguettes, which is pretty exciting, right? We've got the French powerhouse, or maybe not powerhouse, but a bunch of countrymen from France, which is always good to see. And then this poor team that I'm not even sure how they got together, but it's a bunch of somewhat questionable characters in the community known for posting, I don't want to say degenerate, but maybe slightly depraved memes in a lot of people's discords. So it should hopefully be a good match, but we'll see. This is game one, just starting off the series. It is round one, so it's a BO4. So they'll play 4 games, up to 4 games. If a team 3-0s another team, then the series just ends. But otherwise, it'll go the full 4 as long as one team wins. And I've got Ural here with me. Ural, are you excited to see degenerates fight the French?
That sounds like quite the matchup for sure. I'm a big fan of a lot of these guys, fellow posters in several Twitch chats, along with myself, of very high quality content.
Uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
I'm definitely familiar with some of these guys. And I'm also kind of a big fan of the Beyond All Baguettes guys, even though I haven't really interacted with them too much. Some of those guys, Tenebos especially, are pretty involved with the community. They've got a good scene going on over there, and they've been involved in the community in ways where they've been organizing things like Nation Wars, which I believe is coming up next month. And
Yeah.
that's been kind of their sort of community that's sort of brought that forward as far as my knowledge. So yeah, they're really adding a lot to the community and to the game in general. So
Yeah,
good to
that's
see
awesome.
them having a showing here.
I am excited. I forgot about Nation Wars actually. That does come up soon, so that'll be that's always fun when the Nation Wars kicks off. All right, so we actually don't have picks and bans. Sorry, they were not recorded, but we're going to jump in. So Beyond All Baguettes is going to open with a pick on, what do we have here? Red Rock Desert.
Yeah.
All right.
Quintessential small teams map.
Yeah, I will say we did not enjoy it as much. There's a lot of trans cheese and other things that can go on it. We also felt like, for us at least, it was a little weird just because you, like, people will spawn differently. Some people spawned island on the bottom. Some people spawn like on the water and then walk. Did you play on this at all, or how do you feel about this map?
I have a really limited amount of experience on this map. I have seen some other teams in games that I've spectated spawn with, there's these clusters of 5 mexes. I've seen 2 commanders spawn on those to get 1 lab up together very quickly. I've seen players spawn and create an air lab to gain those high grounds. There's high grounds on the map that have mexes and vantage points to shell every single mechs in the area around with like plasma bots or artillery. I've seen a lot of different plays of those kinds. So I would say that this map has some very specific strategies that are really unique to the map. It also features some water in the bottom corners that leads to some amphibious raids or commanders walking through it to get into the backs of bases. It's quite a handful to really nail down all the angles of attack on this map for sure. I cannot hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself on accident there. I was going to say, I feel like Tangerine, this map, and Angel's Crossing are some like the more technical maps. But second pick is Erebos Lakes. And I actually really like this map in 5s because I feel like it's got a lot of variety in it. Like you'll see a lot of times teams will do sort of like, on one side you'll have a 1v2 and you'll almost always have the Navy, but then we've seen teams open air, we've seen teams open tech, we've seen teams just do all sorts of different things. Do you like this map in 8s? And then how do you feel like it's suited to 5s?
I really like Erebos Lakes in 8s. It's a big enough map that it feels quite comfortable to play in 8s. But it also translates quite well into a 5v5 because there's enough players to kind of cover all the space. And the difference between 5s and 8s isn't quite as felt because realistically, in a lot of the 8v8 lobbies, you'll kind of have 3 players more or less doing nothing anyway.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't make too much of a difference. But I'd say that Erebos Lakes being a big map in the 5v5 will end up playing much more similar to the 8v8s that we're all a lot more familiar with, as that's sort of the more commonly played format. With the Erebos Lakes, you'll generally see a tier 2 unit will hit the field most games, in
Yeah.
my experience. Whereas on these smaller maps like Red Rock Desert, you know the game will stay at tier 1 for quite an extended period of time. But because of the size of Erebos Lakes, it's much more feasible to have that tier 2 transition come in that a lot of us 8v8 players are a lot more used to.
Yeah, I mean it's a big map for sure, and I think also I know that OTOM plays a lot of eights, so I could see him picking it just as a comfort pick. And speaking of another map that is picked a lot in eights and that would probably be a comfort pick for both teams is DSD. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of burnt out on DSD in eights. Like it was fun for a while, but I think I might have more games on DSD than I do on any other map in the game. If not, it's close. And in eights, it's a little played out for me, but I have enjoyed it in fives just because it feels a little more dynamic. How do you feel about the differences between this? And then how do you feel about fives positions and 5 openings on DSD?
I think that on DSDR, the fives openings are a little bit more open to creativity and to different ways that you could potentially open on the map. There's 8 different spawns that you could place your commander on Delta Siege. So in 8v8, they're all occupied and they all kind of have like a sort of solved meta defined like kind of role that is most commonly played. But in a 5v5, it's sort of a matter of like which spawns you don't take and what you do with the spawns that you do take. There's a lot more wiggle room, which, like you said, makes the map play out a lot more dynamically. So I
Yeah.
actually think that I've been enjoying Delta Siege more as a small teams map than as an 8v8s map. Although I will say I'm not quite as burnt out on it as a lot of the general community is. It's sort of a favorite map of mine. I have a specific position that I really enjoy playing on it. It's a lot of fun. It's got some really unique and interesting terrain that's a lot of fun to play around with. And I think it makes for a really fantastic small teams experience because of that. The small teams format makes even better use of that sort of unique feature of the map.
Yeah, I will also say that the other part of small teams that I like on DSD is that bottom isn't just pure whistlers, because I think that's one of the most frustrating things of when you play bot DSD in eights is it's all whistlers. In fives, a lot of times it's more of a 2v2 and the middle of the map is open. So you do have that option to just like try to run stouts through or try to run something else, right? If like their air is occupied somewhere else. So I like that aspect of it. And this is the fourth pick is another 8 map, which is pretty funny. And it's basically just winner DSD.
Yeah. Everything that I've said about Delta Siege Dry is kind of mostly more or less the same as how I feel about Nuclear Winter in small
Yeah.
teams. I think that the map is well suited for it. It's fun in 8v8s, it's fun in small teams, and it's a sort of similar style of map. It's a lot of fun to play on.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think that Nuke Winter's like it's a little smaller, and in eights it's a lot more porky, but I feel like in fives it can be more dynamic, although it is kind of an easy map to pork on. So we'll see. Players are loading in, so we're gonna get started momentarily. And I hear people going, so let's get into the game. All right, so on the left side, we have Off Topic Off Meds with some classics. This is Dylan, who's actually subbing. Chummers, in true degenerate fashion, isn't awake yet, as far as everyone knows, and is sleeping while he has someone else fill in his shoes to sub for his role. But then we have Crop Rotation or Jimmy, Adenot, Victor, and Lenore or Jadum. And I actually don't know the BAB guys as much, but ooh, F-Seer?
Yeah.
Lord Vetter. Oh, Lord Vetter is actually a really good 1v1 player.
Yeah, I seem to remember him having quite the run in the most recent 1v1 tournament. He had a really good showing there.
Yeah, I think he was like 4th or something. Enigma, Helicopter, who I do know from some lobbies, and then Space Drunk. What a name. All right, so we've got what? A core air opening? What else is going on here?
You do see that core air opening on that island pretty commonly, just for the transports and for the shurikens are both in high demand on this map.
Yeah, I'm a fan. All right, and then we've got what? Arm vehicles, core bots, and what's their top? So interesting. EFSO is going for the bot lab on high. Normally I see people actually come over and drop the low ground lab, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
Jaden is the air player. So both sides have air. It's just interesting that the corners are crossed.
It's interesting to see that bot lab on the high ground. That's not so common. I'm much more of a fan of, like you said, building that laboratory over the edge and just getting a slightly better rally out of that lab. But getting it down early, maybe he's going to have a slightly better economy for it. One thing I'm noting just from the spawn positions is just kind of seeing the main difference between these two teams is the two different ways that I've seen teams open on this map. If we're not factoring in like two commanders spawning in the same place doing co-op, is that you'll see this this thing that Dylan's done where he's spawned in the water, taken the mechs, and immediately walked to the shore to play that southern lane. And Jadam spawned up in the north as their air player, whereas the French team have placed their air player on that island in the south. And that's sort of the two different places, because generally speaking, because this map has 4 different avenues of attack and has the air-only accessible high grounds, you'll want to have air more often than not on the map. And it's just a matter of where you're going to place that air. And these teams have, for us, showcased exactly kind of the 2 different variations of the air spawn.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Jadam got a full scout off on their bases, and BAB Drunk hasn't yet, but that was an awesome scout. But you're right, because Lord Vetter, first thing he did was get a transport and send a con up. So he's going to take these high ground mexes here, and those are super hard to punish. Once this nettle's up, it's really difficult to actually drop and kind of get that back unless you can do a commander like low to high ground build, which I like. I am curious how Victor is going to do, because it feels like the lanes are sort of shifted.
Right. We've kind of got Victor moving more towards the north. We've got whereas the French players are sort of shifting their lanes. Players are moving towards the south end to sort of cover their air player.
Oh, and it looks like Space Drunk actually opened Bomber. I'm curious if he can actually get too much done with this.
It has been spotted by Dylan here, so if we get a reaction out of Jadam, if he's able to intercept it with a fighter, it's going to determine.
He does have the scout for vision, though, which is awesome. That first bombing rung was only 3 wind and 1 mech, so he needs a lot more to make it worth it. I think he gets some.
That does kind of help Helicopter in his battle with Dylan here. Good bombing onto crop rotation.
Yeah, I mean, he got 4. I think he got, what, 7 wind and 1 max, and I feel like sometimes those bombing runs, even if they don't fully balance out, it's still kind of worth it, because if you can stall early E production, you really cripple their early lane, and it kind of just helps your team get set up and like get in lane or outnumber the opponent.
Right. I think it, as you said, it is going to make it much difficult for crop rotation to reinforce here, so it's going to be able to let Enigma kind of get a foothold back into this lane where crop rotation sort of taken the advantage off the get-go, but this E-stall may swing things back in the French favor.
Yeah, he's kind of picked him, although Enigma is just straight calm walking at these grunts. He's like, come at me, son. And
there's not quite enough grunts to go at this commander, given that the commander has units supporting it, so he's going to be able to reclaim this ground a little bit here.
Yeah, and up top, we've just got grunt versus grunt.
Certified classic.
Yeah, Esther got a beautiful D-gun on Victor's grunt, so I think he got like 4 or 5 of them, and now he's got the outnumber there, so this will be interesting.
Yeah, the LLT commander build standoff happening up there in that northern lane.
Yes, maybe not the most dynamic gameplay, but we got rocketbots coming out, so hopefully they can chip them down. And aiding with the Centurion, I'm not 100% on board with this. Oh, do not get it. Okay. Well, it got D-gunned.
Yeah.
I can respect the fact that he likes to try to make Centurions work.
There may have been, it was a good job for Vador there to be able to catch the Centurion unmicroed and able to D-gun it. I've seen Centurions used as they do outrange the D-gun. I've seen good use out of the Centurion, sometimes even by Aid and Not, to sort of keep a leash on the enemy commander and sort of prevent him from being able to walk forward, but it does require constant attention and focus.
Yeah, you do. You definitely can't APM stall there. It gets a little rough. It seems like Helicopter is kind of pushing Dylan out. I think Dylan may have overmade Blitz, right? He has these 5 Blitz, and it feels like Heli just has the Janus numbers to really scare. Oh.
Dylan also had a hard time just because that early bombing run sort of setting him back on energy production. And this is kind of the trade-off of spawning in the water there, is that you don't have the base behind you that Helicopter does, right? So Helicopter is going to be on more mexes than Dylan, but Dylan's going to have an advantage earlier on with the forward lab, getting his units out onto the field faster that maybe he can deny the forward mexes. But because he was set back by that bombing run, he's not able to leverage that advantage that he got from his spawn as much as he might have maybe wanted to.
Yeah. Space Drunk has Shuris on bot, but I think maybe he needs to flex him up because there's so many Whistlers on that bot, you can't really do anything, but they might be able to come up and do some damage elsewhere and just stun. It seems like Enigma's pushing back crop rotation. Oh, and Lenore might be coming in for a comm bomb. Is he going to throw away his comm for this? I think he gets it. Oh.
Yes. Well, comm goes down, but I'd say that given that that entire army was wiped out, and if they can control the reclaim, that it might actually be decent value on that commander, because this is going to open up the door for Adanaut to be able to push in here into Vedor's base. And it's going to require a reaction out of S-Sphere to come down and help out, which may give Victor, you know, a bit of a relief of pressure and open up his lane as well. So,
yeah. I am a little concerned that Enigma's kind of pushing crop rotation back, and he might be able to swing up and backstab Aiden, but I think Aiden eats that entire comm. You're right. So all things considered, that's a huge buff for OTOM.
And I'm really liking this preemptive nettle out of Adanaut because it's able to completely zone off the shurikens that Space Drunk had made, that had tried to come in and help secure that commander wreck, but they were immediately countered by the commander's damage as well as the nettle.
Yeah, and Jimmy, or crop rotation, or Jimmy is starting to push back Enigma, which is nice. And Aiden has completely won this lane with that comm drop, right? He's starting to chip, and his rocket bots are just coming in. And I feel like Vader's going to need a lot more help here, because if Aiden breaks through this and he can just start flooding grunts into like back economies, I don't think BAB can actually stay in this. I think the OTOM crew will be able to pull through.
The one good thing that I say that the BAB team has going for them is that Helicopter is really pushing Dylan back. Dylan's commander is down to a very slight amount of hit points, where I think even one Janus volley would take him out, and he's retreating into the water. And Dylan is just barely hanging on by the skin of his teeth here in the southern lane. But everywhere else, I'd say that, especially in the north, it's Adanaut and Victor just pushing forth immense pressure on the northern fronts here.
Yeah, it's kind of, can Aiden win or can Helicopter win? But Space Drunk, I think, is going to do exactly what Lenore did just a second ago, and I think he's bringing in his comm to try to bomb. I think
Aiden does have 2 nettles in that area, so it's going to be close if he's going to be able to land his commander effectively, or how it's going to go.
Oh, he's hugging Aiden, and I think, well, if Aiden pulls back his army, I think he's good. What loses here? All right, so they're going to hug, and they go down. Oh, Aiden lost more of his army there, I think. Right? That's...
Yeah, he did do a good job of pulling back his armies, that he didn't lose all of his rocket bots, but yes, he definitely did take some damage to the army there, and that's probably going to be that metal going in favor of BAB, as Vader is moving in his commander to potentially secure those wrecks.
I also love this kind of cute little play from Enigma where he just puts one high ground thug just to chip at the rocket bots with the range. Super annoying, but actually a great combination. So Victor has pushed F-Seer back, it looks like, as well, right? And he's going to drop a forward bot lab and keep applying pressure. This is interesting, right? So do we think...
Big fan of the forward bot lab.
Yeah, do we think Helicopter is going to push through bottom sooner, or Victor's going to push through top sooner?
It looks like crop rotation has rotated some forces, pun not intended, but we'll take it, down here to assist Dylan in dealing with Helicopter. So Helicopter is sort of getting 2v1'd here, as Enigma is not quite able to push through crop rotation more northern.
Oh, wait,
great D-guns.
Yeah, the D-gun was amazing. I think even just the Janus got so close, they died to the explosion, right? But
yes.
He didn't take any army with him. He only lost his own army, so I'm not 100% sure it's the best play, but...
It does deny Helicopter the ability to use the commander offensively to control the reclaim, and that's a definite weakness of the vehicle composition that Helicopter is going for here is that if you want to control the reclaim, you have to use constructors, which are a lot more expensive and a lot slower than resbots, right? So it's if the green the blue team are able to secure the reclaim, maybe it's okay, but Helicopter doing a great job not to lose his army to his comm explosion, intentionally moving it farther to the south so that he's able to keep those Whistlers and Janus alive.
Yeah, and Dylan getting completely forced out of bottom is pretty brutal because now crop rotation's trying to hold 2 lanes at once, and Enigma realizes that, and he's like, all right, well, if you're not in my lane and you put down a bunch of Dragon's Claws, let me just go spill into Aiden's lane. And because that's happening, Vetter and Essir can 2v1 Victor on top, and even though he's trying, there are so many rocket bots here. 33 rocket bots. Okay. That's a ridiculous number of rocket bots. It's starting to look a little scary for OTOM, but Lenore's going to try to equalize it with this bombing run. What does he get? All right, actually, this is looking pretty good. If he can get the other wind farm, does he get it?
I think the biggest thing I'm looking to take out here with this bombing run is if he can take out the construction turret, it's going to make it a lot harder for Esphere to sort of rebuild that base. He's losing a fair few of his bombers to these thistles that I think could have been taken out earlier on.
I feel like, don't you just open and kill the thistle and then just bomb the rest? I mean, still he essentially cripples that entire base. So
yeah, that base is more or less gone, but pretty significant cost to Lenore. If he slightly could have gone better, still a great outcome though, as the orange base is more or less removed from the map. The lab's still standing, a couple solars totally battered, but other than that, not a lot of economy left.
Yeah, and he actually bombed some of the rocket bots as well, but it looks like Space Drunk's gonna be able to clean up those bombers. At the same time, though, I mean, Aiden is completely pushed out of mid, and crop rotation is getting pushed on 2 fronts now, and I don't know how long this is gonna be able to last. He does have the ever obnoxious HLT plus Claws plus Nano in mid, but I think Enigma might be able to just run through it, especially if he can get a jammer and just degun it.
A big thing, too, for Helicopter here is that off of his victory down in the south there, he has been able to control a lot of that reclaim with his constructors. He's managed to get a Tier 2 vehicle factory in his main base, and he's got a Tier 2 constructor out. He's upgrading mexes. He's doing a great job of scaling further into the game here. So he's taken his lead, and he's really run with it there with that Tier 2 factory.
Yeah, and I actually like that he's going for pressure, right? Because like that first con is out just to upgrade T2 for himself, and he can probably up mexes for his friends. And then he started making, well, I say that now and he makes another con, but he started building Jags, and I think I actually really like that, where it's like you get the one con out, but then you want to get T2 out as soon as possible and just leverage it and try to break a lane.
Right, you want to be able to have some actual combat effective use out of that 3,000 metal that you've put into the lab, because the mexes are great and all, but if you're spending even more thousands of metal on economy, you really run the risk of getting overrun by Tier 1 before you can sort of see the return on your investment on that Tier 2.
Oh my god, poor. So Dylan was given all these Shuris, and there were like 10 of them, and he wanted to try to help top, and then he realized he was getting hit by nettles, so he ran over and started to stun him. But there's 4 nettles with a 5th building, and he lost so many Shuris, which is, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. I didn't realize that there's a gauntlet from Lord Vetter on this hill too, which not the best use of his metal, but here it actually does deny kind of a lot of that middle, which really does push Aiden back, and it is able to slowly chip at this Dragon's Claw, which bots can struggle to deal with.
Dragon's Claw, notoriously effective defensive structure, especially hard to deal with because of the damage reduction it takes. The best solution, in my opinion, is to just outrange it, because they do have quite a lot of damage on them. So yeah, getting rid of that will make it a lot easier for Vetter to play through that middle area.
Oh, and here come the Shuris. Dylan is microing Shuris because he doesn't have much else to do, and he locks down all 4 of these stouts from Enigma. So I feel like they need Whistlers or they need AA bots. Trying to send units in just to raid when there are Shuris on the field is not going to accomplish much. Mm-hmm. And Lenore's trying to get some bombing on units, but I think Space BAB just has more fighters and there's air superiority, so this is a little scary. Or he'll separate them and Lenore will kill all the fighters. I take it back.
Yeah, really good engagement by Lenore. Just overmatching the fighters one at a time as they're sort of trickling in, chasing these bombers. That's a really efficient trade.
I am really worried about the eco differences though, right? Like red holding all of bottom is such a massive income advantage in comparison that I feel like the OTOM is going to have to massively outplay BAB, right? Because otherwise it's just like they can just use more metal and just throw more units at them.
I'm told that in most real-time strategy games that more stuff is generally a good counter to less stuff.
Oh my god.
And having more resources makes it a lot easier to produce more things.
Now that is some deep knowledge. Whoa, comm goes down on top. Victor killed someone's comm. I don't know if that was a comm bomb or if that... He still has his army, so it looks like he was able to just actually kill the comm, and he's still applying pressure. And Aiden is going to run some stouts up through and try to break it, but Lord Vetter is also T2, and Pyros versus Rocket Bots is going to be a very, very tall order for Victor to actually survive.
Yeah, that is a matchup classically in favor of the Tier 2 raiding units as opposed to the Tier 1 skirmish unit.
Oh, and Helicopter broke... Oh, I thought he broke through bottom, but I take it back. There's a Claw and an HLT, so he's holding for now, but Jimmy is still fighting 1v2. I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, sort of on all fronts now, it looks like the BAB team is starting to sort of gain control and momentum, really slinging that eco lead into a situation of having more stuff.
100%, and Victor is starting to get pushed back. This is a little scary. I mean, he's got a couple Wolverines and his commander is trying to eat the reclaim that he can before he runs. He dropped his own T2 lab, so he'll be able to get Fiends and get whatever else he wants now, but
that is the first Tier 2 lab for the off-topic, off-meds team, so good that they have it, but it may be a case of being too little too late.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that they probably needed it a little bit sooner, but I also understand... Oh, and Victor's comm goes down top. Jags come in along with the Fiends. There's nothing here, right? Don't these just run all the way through to eco?
There's not a lot there, and yeah, it's looking like a lot of naked economic structures, and not a lot of point defense or units in the way of these Jaguars.
Yeah,
they've also got great bombing coming in on the south on Dylan's island base that he's retreated to, and it looks like we're getting a resign team coming out of the off-topic, off-meds team.
Yeah, they just straight up call it. They're done. I think between the T2 and between everything else, they realized that it was over. So I like it was a good game. It was a pretty good series. Oh, sorry. Here, let me show graphs. Actually, let's go back in. Apologies. So in terms of metal, yeah, I mean, Helicopter basically once he took over mid, he was just so far ahead of everyone else that I think it was just really hard.
Well, that's the thing I was talking about earlier in the replay, where because he spawned on the 5 mech spawn in the back as opposed to his opponent spawning in the water, he's just got more mexes, assuming that he's able to take an equal control of that southern portion.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think you really have to leverage. You need help to kind of hold bottom if you do that front spawn for sure. But all in all, good game. So I'm excited. Let's see if off topic, off meds can maybe take their meds and recover for game 2.